Episode 49. This is the Inside Deschutes County podcast. Wherever you might be and however you might be listening, thank you for making us a part of your day. You can subscribe at any podcast platform. You can also find us at deschutes.org/podcast.
Deschutes County is an amazing place to live.
Ease of access.
Work and play.
Great place to raise a family.
I love the weather and the high
At
desert.
Deschutes County, we provide excellent service.
We're here to help you.
Deschutes County is the heart of Oregon.
Everyone wants to be here.
Welcome to the Inside Deschutes County podcast. So glad you're with us. I'm Eric Breon. Well, I've really been looking forward to today's conversation. Today's guest is Lieutenant Nathan Garibay with Deschutes County Emergency Management, among other things that he does. But he oversees search and rescue, and boy, have they been busy. Nathan has for years led the county's response to emergencies, disasters. That role might be changing a little bit. We might talk about that. But Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to it.
We could talk about so many different things. But I want to narrow the scope a little bit today and talk specifically about search and rescue, because a lot has happened over the last few months. So we'll get into what those things are or what they were, but can we start by kind of talking about search and rescue's mission and kind of the scope of your operations at the sheriff's office?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think search and rescue is probably easily one of my favorite things to talk about. It's an opportunity to really highlight some of the work that our staff and predominantly our volunteers do. If you look at search and rescue in Oregon, it's a requirement of the Office of Sheriff. And so it's actually a requirement that sheriff's offices provide search and rescue services. And the vast majority of those services throughout Oregon are delivered by volunteers. So we are fortunate that we have a small group of paid staff that support our volunteers and support the mission. But really just the overwhelming majority of the hours spent are volunteer hours from our very dedicated and I would say, incredibly professional volunteer crew.
How many people are we talking about, Nathan?
Yeah, that number varies throughout the year and from year to year. But, we usually are right around 120. And then we have a few additional volunteers that have some technical skills that we also utilize that might not be a full SAR volunteer, but they might have like some specialized skills that we can tap into depending on the circumstance.
That's more people than I thought might be in that group. That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a large organization. Again, it's I guess supported by paid staff, but by and large, mostly run by volunteers.
That's incredible. I mean, the dedication there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but I would say that every year, there's thousands of volunteer hours, and I think the last time I looked, the going rate for volunteer service is $33 an hour, which I don't know that really truly captures the complexity and skill of the volunteer work that we see here in Deschutes County from our volunteers. So, I mean, I think that dollar amount's probably pretty low.
Yeah.
If you want to just put a dollar amount to the number of hours and the service that our volunteer crew gives back to the community, we're talking a significant investment.
Are most of these folks obviously they're doing other work. Are they mostly in law enforcement, or are they maybe previous work, done other work like this in their past? What have you found about the person that does this kind of work, volunteer efforts to help people save lives?
Yeah, we have a few folks that are previous public safety or current public safety, but the vast majority are just members of the public, just like just like you would run into in the grocery store. Generally,
I'm glad you didn't say like you and me, because there's no way I could do that work.
I don't know. We could train you up.
Yeah.
I think so. The kind of the profile. I don't know that we have a common profile for a search and rescue volunteer. I would say there's some common denominators. One of those is love of outdoors, and living here in Deschutes County, that's there's definitely
Gotta have that.
a pretty good pool of applicants, so to speak. But yeah, love of outdoors, love of service. Wanting to give back to the community. That this is a wonderful community. It's really driven by the outdoor recreation, and particularly these days. And so I think the volunteers and our staff alike, share kind of a common purpose in the fact that people come to Deschutes County, or they live in Deschutes County because of many reasons, but some of those certainly are the natural outdoor landscape, the opportunities for recreation. And, when they go out and they get in trouble, we want to make sure that we have the resources to try to go get them out of trouble and to deliver them back home to their families as safe as possible. And, unfortunately, sometimes we do have outcomes that we aren't all looking for, but the reality of it is that level of service and dedication from our team is, second to none. And it's really easy to talk about our search and rescue program, but it's something that I would say that I get a little emotional about because of the number of opportunities we have to help those around us and what that really means to those family members. And man, I wish I would have remembered to bring a few. Just we get cards and letters and thank you notes regularly, and to be able to read some of those would be phenomenal. I wish I would have remembered to bring some.
I bet the gratitude is just hits home, right? I mean, just hits you right in the heart.
Yeah. I most of us have been in situations where we just we've been struck by circumstances that just are overwhelming and, scary, and we don't know what to do and we don't know who to turn to. And, when you're in the woods in Deschutes County, we want to be that service people turn to. We want to be that service that the community can trust and rely on.
Well, I mentioned you guys have been busy, and I want to dig into a couple of these incidents, and some of them good outcomes, some of them not. In February, 2 backcountry skiers tragically lost their lives in an avalanche near Broken Top. Can you walk us through SAR's response to that incident?
Yeah, that incident in particular, I think was hit pretty close to home to a number of our volunteers. Either they knew the family or those involved, or just the fact that these people are experienced backcountry recreators and well known in the community and pretty I think they would be someone that would you could see in our SAR team, right? So
yeah.
That one, it was certainly not the outcome anybody would want. But, the response to that is essentially, we get a call for service. And that one came in a little different because, at first it came in as people that were overdue or missing. And so, that response is a little different than one that we know immediately is an avalanche or a rescue type situation. And so once we found out that an avalanche burial had happened, the circumstances kind of forced us to slow down that response for safety and make sure that we look out for the welfare of our responders. But the reality of it is, if you're a backcountry skier, you're a backcountry recreator, or you ride snowmobiles, there's certain risks out there, and those that is probably part of the enjoyment, but the reality of it is those same risks are presented to our responders when we respond. And, in circumstances where there's clearly been an avalanche and a slide, the conditions are clearly present that could happen again, or that not all of the slide actually slid, so that there could still be a present hazard. And so, we're fortunate that we have a number of folks that are well trained and experienced in avalanche response. And so, we really lean on those with a higher level of training to help guide us and help put together a plan that not only can serve the mission, but then can also do so to mitigate the risk to our responders.
Nathan, I was interested when I was watching the coverage of that, and even the post-incident reports that came out of that. How do you utilize information from other agencies to kind of coordinate something like that, whether it's rescue, whether it's recovery? Are you obviously, you guys got to work hand in hand with a lot of different people. What is that like in terms of kind of the collaboration? I mean, are you working with an avalanche control network? I mean, in terms of like, if you're walking up there and there's a risk of that, then your people might be at risk. So, I mean, lots of information going around and around, I bet.
Yeah. With specifically speaking to avalanche, we work with Central Oregon Avalanche Center, and the folks there are helping compile the forecasts and put the avalanche forecast together and get that information out. And I would certainly, if you are doing anything in the snow in the winter, even if you're not backcountry, I'd encourage you to check out their website on a regular basis and see what the conditions are and look at forecasts. And so, we work with Central Oregon Avalanche Center, but, just kind of generally, we don't deliver search and rescue services, just like we don't deliver public safety services in Deschutes County in a vacuum. Those services are delivered in conjunction and coordination and collaboration with multiple other partners. And you see it in the summer during fire season. We're working with multiple agencies, not only the fire agencies and land management agencies, but we're working with the nonprofits, community-based organizations like the American Red Cross, and we do that in a way to make sure that the community that we serve gets the best service we can provide, but by those who are best suited to deliver that service. So you make that you take that to a search and rescue standpoint. We some of the organization we work with obviously is in the winter, Central Oregon Avalanche Center, but United States Forest Service, other federal land management agencies. We work with other public safety agencies. We work with Airlink and Lifelight and the state of Oregon and the National Guard, and we try to bring in the tool and the service that our community members need, regardless of whether that's us. We want to make sure that they get the fastest and the best and the safest search and rescue services we can provide.
Is the snow season your busiest time of year?
Not necessarily. It kind of varies year to year. We used to say that we had shoulder seasons kind of between the winter snow season and the summer. And we seem to have a little bit of a lull in the spring and the fall, but I'm not even sure that that's truly accurate anymore or every year. It seems like we consistently have a little over 100 missions a year. And,
I
those
guess
are
hiking and you got wildfire season and those kinds of things.
Yeah. So I think, in the winter you see, a lot of skiing and snowmobiling, snowshoers, things like that. In the summer, a lot of mountain biking, hiking, different activities. But then in the shoulder seasons, I would say spring and fall is probably our busiest season at Smith Rock.
Yeah.
And primarily because that's when the weather's most cooperative. I mean, you don't really want to be climbing rocks when it's 100
Probably
degrees,
not, yeah.
right? So it seems like springtime we get real busy at Smith Rock. Again, that's just kind of intuitively and kind of off the cuff, but that's kind of what my gut tells me.
I think maybe because it's recency bias, right? You hear about all the incidents. There was a pretty complex rescue of two stranded skiers on South Sister, and I'm wondering kind of what went into that rescue, because that obviously different than the avalanche. Challenges there. What was the response for that? Did helicopter support come into play? How does all that unfold?
Yeah, that one was a little unique in that we got initial information on that that indicated that we had a couple skiers that were stranded, one possibly unable to make their way down the mountain. And kind of due to the time of day and, kind of a window of being able to effect a rescue, we did fairly early on in that implement a request for air resources and assist. So that came in two forms. One, we put in a request through the state of Oregon SAR coordinator for a National Guard helicopter who which oftentimes, that's our only resource in Oregon consistently that can do hoist rescues. So in cases where somebody's in a real difficult situation or location access, sometimes hoist rescues are the most appropriate. But again, they're limited also, by weather and conditions. And, there's a whole, just because that Black Hawk shows up doesn't necessarily mean that it can actually affect a rescue. We also delivered a few of our search and rescue, or a couple of our search and rescue, our mountain rescue folks to the scene with Airlink. And Airlink and Lifelight over the years have been great partners and oftentimes help us with getting quick access to particularly cases where we have a limited window or we have somebody who could potentially be in real bad shape. So we did get some rescuers up there, and then the Black Hawk actually showed up a lot faster than usual. I think they had an air crew on at the or at the air base. They were getting ready to do training anyway, so their crew was there, assembled. They were ready to fly, and so they got on scene real fast and actually were able to pull those folks off. I think the highlight there is. Particularly in the alpine environment, that is an area where you cannot just think, oh, if I get in trouble, I'll call a helicopter, because that was really fortunate, because there's a lot of times conditions up there prevent aircraft from being of much assistance. And so, we hear about the times they are, but many, many times, either aircraft can't find a subject or they can't access the subject, or depending on conditions, particularly in the mountains, they just can't fly. They can't fly safely. And so I think that's a highlight where, when you go into the alpine environment, particularly in the wilderness, you should expect to be pretty self-sufficient, and, we'll do everything we can to come help. But the reality of it is we're our own best rescuer.
Yeah.
And maybe preventing getting ourselves in a bad situation. And that's, really relying on, experience and knowledge and knowing our limits, and probably recognizing when we're not near as prepared as we think we are.
Well, when you get called into action, the unknown, right, has to be huge. I mean, you don't know the condition of the person that you're rescuing. Can they walk? Right. Can they not? Do they need to be hoisted? Do they need the snowbulance or the snow ambulance, so to speak? I mean, there's so many X factors that come into play with a rescue. I mean, I imagine that after every rescue, what you learn about them and how it affects the next rescue or your strategies really comes into play there.
Yeah, seldom do we get all the information we'd like to know. And we talk a lot about having to have some acceptance of ambiguity, because, when we're responding to an emergency, or we're responding to a call for service, or a lost subject, or a subject in need of rescue, seldom do we have all the facts. And so the ability to kind of adapt our strategy and tactics to the circumstances we find ourselves in is really an important, what I would say is a really important capability of a professional search and rescue team, or for that matter, any emergency response agency.
Switching gears a little bit, SAR got asked, well, I don't know if they were asked or if you just volunteered your services outside Deschutes County in Harney County. There was a lot of flooding, pretty devastating situation there. Can you talk about the response there and why you were called or why you volunteer? I don't know which way it was, whether you were asked or whether you went on your own. what the key considerations were there for supporting the folks near burns and the flooding situation there.
Yeah, sure. We were asked. We have we try not to respond out of county unless asked. I think what the situation was, that community clearly was being impacted by, I would say historical flooding, and they it was on a Sunday. They requested assistance because they had a number of folks in the northern portion of Burns that there was 4 or 5, maybe even higher, 6 feet of water in some places in and around homes. Yeah, it's and the other challenge with that is that water was contaminated with all flood water should be presumed to be contaminated, but there was sewage was backed up into that water and a number of challenges of that. So really it was not just the hazard of deep water, but the hazard of people really should be careful being exposed to that. And so we sent a team upon request from Harney County to respond, and we sent our swiftwater rescue team, which even though the water wasn't moving quote unquote swiftly, it was moving water. There are hazards. There are going to be in water hazards, strainers, different things under the water that would pose a hazard to rescuers. So our swiftwater rescue team's uniquely trained and experienced in handling those kind of situations. We responded over Sunday afternoon. We were able to, before dark, we were able to get a good kind of scout or kind of understanding of the lay of the land and understand, kind of what their mission was going to be. And a number, and, I really want to highlight the fact that the local Burns community and the first responders there did, just yeoman's work that weekend in getting people out. But there were a few folks that either had chosen to stay or they were not able to get out that night. And so we were able to go in Monday morning and early afternoon and make contact with a number of folks and provide them transportation out of the flooded areas where they could either seek shelter with friends or family or go to the shelter.
How many people were we talking about? Were there?
Yeah, I think we
you helped.
Yeah, I think we helped 4 people get out, as well as a chicken. A gentleman wanted to bring his chicken, which I don't blame him.
Yeah.
And then we also, there were some folks that for one reason or another chose that they still couldn't leave. And we did, I know we took some bottled water into one subject, and then another subject was, or another person we helped take care of an older couple's cat that had been left behind. And so we were able to take somebody in to help.
Well, we smile about that a little bit, but I mean, every rescue different, right? Everybody's got some, their dog, their belongings. They don't want to let go of their photo album. I mean,
we're
deal with that stuff too, right? In the moment,
100%. And I think, it's really easy to kind of, well, gosh, I'd do this or I'd do that. Well, we seldom really know how we would act until we're in that situation.
Yeah.
And there's for every person out there, there's a unique set of circumstances. And we do our best to try to support people where they're at and those circumstances and recognize that, we're here to provide a service. And, we were fortunate. And I think I would say the team felt blessed to be able to go and help and to use our skills to help others. But I think the other thing about that is we're also kind of awestruck in kind of the resilience and the care and concern that the Burns and the Harney County community has for themselves and for one another. And I think that's kind of the story to tell, is that, we were kind of witnesses to a community's resilience. And I think that says a lot about the character of that community and really communities all over this country, right? That, in bad days, neighbors show up to help each other. And, it was also heartwarming to see that the care and concern that the community showed for us and the gratitude they showed for us. But really, I would say our gratitude to them was that, they bent over backwards to let us know that, how appreciated we were. But, really in their time of needs, they were serving each other and serving others. So
Sure.
that was good to see.
Yeah. That's got to make you feel good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always curious about the technology when it comes to how people do their jobs. And I imagine that there's been some technological advancements over the years that you've probably seen. Are there any kind of cool tools that you guys use? I mean, obviously you talked about a Black Hawk helicopter. That's kind of cool. We've seen the snowbulance. What other kind of things out there that maybe you can kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and I'm assuming on the Swiftwater rescue, the boats and the inflatable. I mean, what can you talk about a little bit?
I would say probably some of the biggest advances in the last several years have come in kind of the tools that we have around mapping and navigation. Our UAV, our drones, they just keep getting better and more effective. Our equipment, we're really lucky here in Deschutes County. We've been able to acquire pretty good equipment, whether that's snowmobiles or our tracked rescue vehicle, which is a piston bully. It's similar to like what you might see at a ski resort in a grooming fashion, but it's set up for rescues and hauling people and patients out of harm's way. But really, at the end of the day, it's the people, and it's still a pretty, get your hands dirty, get out, beat the brush, looking for people. There's strategies and tactics we use to be the most effective. But at the end of the day, it's the people, it's those 120 plus or minus volunteers and our real limited paid staff that really make the difference. And that's hard to put a value on because that level of dedication that we see from our team is like I said, it's an honor and privilege to be part of it and to watch it happen.
Does SAR do anything in terms of outreach? In terms of, educating the public about outdoor safety, preparedness? What can you talk about there?
Yeah, we do. And then also our Search and Rescue Foundation, that's one of the key roles that our Search and Rescue Foundation, they do public education and outreach and fundraising to support search and rescue in Deschutes County. And, they're a phenomenal asset and partner in making sure that our team has what they need to do their job. But then a big part of what they do is providing educational opportunities and outreach at public events to make sure that our members of our community and visitors to Deschutes County have access to information to keep themselves safe and or to mitigate risk to backcountry recreation.
Is there anything that we can do to help support SAR's mission? I mean, obviously volunteers, you probably need that, but is there other means to help support what you guys do?
Yeah, I think, that support could come in a lot of ways. It could come from just spreading the message about where to go to get information, things like sharing that information about Central Oregon Avalanche Center and their website and their forecasting tools to help, prevent incidents during the winter, to understanding the 10 essentials and things that people should take if you're going to be hiking or you're going to be you got one of those permits to summit South Sister, what you can do to improve your chance of success and to lessen the risk that something if something bad will happen, but two, if something bad happens, you're properly equipped to take care of yourself till we can get there. Obviously our Search and Rescue Foundation does fundraising events to support SAR volunteers and activity or SAR volunteer activities like training and events to sharpen their skills. But really, I think it's about just recognizing probably the level of dedication our volunteers do. And if you have skills, outdoor skills, and you're looking for an opportunity to volunteer, we do recruitment. We've gone to currently we're doing every other year. Historically, sometimes we've recruited every year, but we've had pretty high retention rates of our volunteers. So we will start recruitment again this fall, and we usually start that in November to select the next academy students sometime in the early
and where
or
do
late winter, I guess.
Where do they go for that information? If somebody is interested in volunteering with SAR, where do they go to learn about it and how to apply?
Yeah, the Search and Rescue Foundation also does a great job of keeping that information up to date. So that's DeschutesSearchandRescue.org is a great website for people to go, not only to get information about how you can support the search and rescue mission, but if you are interested in volunteering, there's information on that website about what that process is. We do ask a lot of our volunteers, and so it's a pretty involved process, not only to get selected to be part of Deschutes County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue, but then also the training demands and then the maintenance demands. So, if you do get selected, you would have to attend an academy that is several nights a week for about a month, a little over a month. Involves some outdoor all-night activities. It involves some mock missions. It involves lots of technical training. And then that's just the beginning. And then after that, there's opportunities to join some of our specialized teams, which have additional training, like our mountain rescue team, our swiftwater team. We have opportunities to deploy on four-wheelers and snowmobiles, and we also have a very robust medical team. So a number of our members either are EMTs, paramedics, doctors, and nurses, or once they become a volunteer, oftentimes go to get additional higher levels of medical training. And so the minimum expectation is 100 hours a year of training. That's once you've completed the academy, and 6 missions a year that you make it on 6 missions a year. So it's like I said, it's an involved volunteer opportunity, but it's very rewarding. And I would say that if you talk to any of our volunteers, they would tell you that.
Yeah, is that why you got into this work? I mean, the helping hand, obviously help your neighbors, but I mean, it is rewarding too, right?
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, I was born and raised here. My dad was a deputy sheriff. My grandfather on my mom's side was a deputy sheriff, both retired from Deschutes County Sheriff's Office. And, our family were volunteer firefighters back in the day. And, I think that feeling of, giving back to your community is something that, even though I get paid to be here and show up to work, there's something that's just pretty special about, even if it's just once in a while, but hey, I think we made a big difference today. And that is something that, boy, you can't put a price on. And, sometimes we show up in people's worst days, and sometimes we can make that day just a little less bad. And that's sometimes what we hang our hat on. And that, that's something to be, to remember. That's why we're here.
The stories you could tell. The stories you could tell, and members of your team.
Yeah.
We will save those for another day.
Yeah.
Thank you to you and for the work that you do, the members of Search and Rescue, for the time that they give, the efforts, their skill, their dedication to the mission, to helping their neighbors, to people just trying to have a good time, and they get stuck, and you guys are there for them. And so we really appreciate that. Lieutenant Nathan Garibay, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
If you would like to learn more information about Deschutes County Search and Rescue, you can go to the foundation website at DeschutesSearchAndRescue.org. We also mentioned the Central Oregon Avalanche Center, some very important information on their website at coavalanche.org. My thanks again to Lieutenant Nathan Garibay, who, by the way, recently received a promotion. Our thanks for all the work he's done with emergency management. Look forward to hearing more about his new role at the Sheriff's Office. Remember, you can listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find us at Deschutes.org/podcast. But until next time, please be safe out there.